Welcome to Mocking the Draft's first ever video mock. In the past, we've done blogs, and this time around we're taking a suggestion and running with it. So here's my 2017 final mock draft. Finally made it to draft week, so the excitement is high, anticipation is high, smoke screens are everywhere, incidents are arising in the most crucial point in a player's life, causing unexpected drama. It happens every year, it seems like, and we never know what to expect. It's what makes it this time of the year so exciting, so unpredictable. Usually I do have an intro that's a little longer than that, but for those of you that are just here for the picks and don't care to hear me talk, we're going to get right into it. I do have some highlight videos, courtesy of Scott from Just Bombs Productions. I just have a little disclaimer real quick that there will be no videos for LSU players as well as linemen, so I will have pictures to go along with those as well as analysis. With that being said, we're at number 1 for Cleveland Browns. Everyone kind of expects Cleveland Browns to screw this up. Every year, they're kind of the laughing stock. I'm excited. They have the most picks in the draft. It's always fun mocking those picks when you have a team that can totally turn around their roster. I think this is an obvious one, although there is speculation that Mitchell Trubisky could be the pick. I do think that Myles Garrett is a can't-pass-up prospect. Kind of like Jadeveon Clowney a few years back with Houston. I think Myles Garrett is on that same level. I think it is someone who Cleveland would regret not taking. I do also believe that there is no quarterback worthy of the number 1 overall selection. I know that they are desperate for a franchise quarterback, but this is not the time to get one in my mind. They do have plenty of ammo to trade up if they do choose to do that. With that being said, that is taking Myles Garrett here and trading back up if Trubisky does fall. Myles Garrett is a difference maker on defense. He was just ripped by Warren Sapp, saying that he's lazy. He only makes 4 plays a game. Let's be honest, 4 plays a game for the Cleveland Browns, no offense, they would help. And I do think with the right coaching that he can become a difference maker. He won't be that lazy anymore. He will make more plays. I do think the Cleveland Browns do have that coaching staff finally on hand to help him get to that next level. And this also helps their defense out in many aspects. A weak secondary is going to be helped out by more of a pass rush. The running game is going to be helped out. They don't have a whole lot at linebacker. So overall, it's just going to be a great pick for them. I do expect Myles Garrett to be the selection. Number 2, San Francisco 49ers. This was a tough one, but there's no answer at quarterback. They tried in free agency. I do not believe that they found the answer. With that being said, we're going to select quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. A scout did say that there was only one quarterback that was worthy of a first-round pick. I do believe that Trubisky is that pick. We don't know for sure. It's kind of what makes these smoke screens and scout quotes more interesting. We're never quite sure who they mean or who they're talking about. But in my mind, that is who they're talking about. Watching film, I do believe he stands out as an NFL-ready passer. Also, I do expect him to have more of a Jared Goff rookie season where he's not going to see a lot of action. They will use Hoyer as a stopgap quarterback or whoever they decide, while Trubisky sits for a season and learns. Maybe later in the season he gets pushed into action and he might struggle, but to have that almost redshirt season will benefit him. They do have Kyle Shanahan now, and I do think that that will help the offense. It'll be a good situation for Mitchell to learn and develop. They do also have the option to trade down. I know that Lynch has expressed interest in trading down. Although I do think it's possible, I find it hard to pass up this quarterback here. They've needed one since Kaepernick had that unexpected Super Bowl season. Number 3, the Chicago Bears. A lot of options. Solomon Thomas, one that shoots right at the top. He is a player that a lot of teams might want to trade up to pick. The fact that he's fallen to 3 is even considered a slide for him. I do believe, though, that they will go with safety Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams is a Pro Bowl talent at safety. Playing in the NFC North against Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, they need someone like that. The Bears have played against Harrison Smith for my Minnesota Vikings since he's been drafted. They see the difference that someone like that can make on their defense, how that difference maker can affect all around the field. Jamal Adams is that type of safety. He doesn't just play center field. He is in the box. He can stuff the run. He can rush the passer. He can drop back into coverage. Chicago Bears do have a weak secondary. They could use a player like that. They could wait and take a cornerback in the second round. It could happen, but they also could take their Pro Bowl safety here and take a quarterback later on in the draft. I expect them to go with Jamal Adams. Jacksonville Jaguars, number 4. Another pick where this could go multiple places. I do believe that it will be running back Leonard Fournette. He is Adrian Peterson or Ezekiel Elliott type talent at running back. He could take that offense to the next level. Blake Bortles has struggled. It seems like they're going to stick with him as long as they can. Probably just one more year, to be honest. But Fournette can take that pressure off and help open up that passing game. They will no longer be one-dimensional. They've had a running back by committee for years now, and they could use that one workhorse in the backfield to go away from a strict passing offense. Number 5, Tennessee Titans. Mariota has been the focus since they drafted him. They've been trying to build around him. They've drafted offensive linemen high to protect him. Now that they have that line in place, now that they have some running backs, they picked up DeMarco Murray, they drafted Derrick Henry, they need a wide receiver. So expect them to go wide receiver Mike Williams here. He is a big body target. They do have some other receivers on the team, but no one quite like Mike Williams. Mike Williams is that go up and get the ball type of receiver. He is bigger. He will be that large target, especially in the red zone for Mariota. They could go defense here, but they do have another pick in the first round, and in a deep cornerback and secondary class and a little bit of a top-heavy wide receiver class, I do think Mike Williams goes here. It would be considered the final piece to help Marcus Mariota. With the lack of wide receiver depth on the roster, there's a reason that their offense has struggled. It's shown flashes, but I think this can help take them to the next level. Number 6, New York Jets. This is another team kind of like the Browns where no one knows where this pick's going. They can be the laughing stock, but they're always entertaining and fun to watch. A lot of people think a quarterback here. In my mind, they've taken too many quarterbacks in the first, 1, 2, 3 rounds in recent drafts, where it's going to scare them away from taking one here at number 6. They could trade down, then take their quarterback, but I don't foresee that happening. I think rather than doing that, they take a lineman in order to protect whoever is in the backfield this season. It is a reach. The offensive line class is a little weaker this year. Like I said, whoever's going to be behind center, they need to protect that person. They've had an embarrassing offensive line for some time. I think we all recall the butt fumble. So expect offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk to go here. He is the best tackle in the draft. Although he's suffering from an injury at this time, he will come back. He can be a Pro Bowl type player. He will be, in my mind, a franchise tackle for them for many years. It would be a wise selection, especially considering the weak offensive line class here. Number 7, LA Chargers. This is one that I couldn't believe played out here. When I mock my drafts, I go pick by pick, as you should, and I thought about it and I could not believe this is the situation that played out. It played out last year with Joey Bosa. With that being said, I think we all know where this is going. Defensive lineman Solomon Thomas. He slid. The fact that he made it to number 7 is unbelievable. Similar to Leonard Williams with the Jets. Nobody expected him to slide past 3 picks, but he slid down to the Jets. Expect the same thing to happen with Solomon Thomas. Chargers are going to pounce on him. They're going to pair him with Joey Bosa, and they're going to have an absolutely scary defensive line. Solomon Thomas is just an animal. He's versatile. He plays with intensity. He's strong. He's fast. He's physical. He's going to be a great complement to Joey Bosa, and opposing offensive lines aren't going to know what to do with him. Offensive coordinators are going to have nightmares about this defensive line, practicing in preparation to play the Chargers. They could use a cornerback or a safety, but that class is strong, so expect them to look that way in the coming rounds. But with that said, pass rush will help the secondary. So even if they do have a weaker secondary, Solomon Thomas and Joey Bosa are going to mask that. This is also one of those best player available situations where the Chargers, take into consideration last year, they took the same approach. They'll do the same here. Number 8, Carolina Panthers. Ever since they lost Josh Norman, their secondary has taken a hit. They did have some players step up last year, but they could still use some help. I'm going to take safety Malik Hooker here. He is a ball hawk. He is a center fielder. He's all over the place. He closes quickly when the ball's in the air. He's just a turnover machine. He'd greatly help with the Panthers secondary. Although they did sign some aging veterans this offseason, they could use someone like Malik Hooker, and I do think that'll also excel his progression into a Pro Bowl safety, having those mentors on that defense to help him get to where he needs to be. The running back class is strong. Like I said, they could use a running back. Would help Cam Newton a lot, take some pressure off of him. He hasn't never really had a featured back. That is an option, but the class is strong. They can wait for other early rounds, round 2, round 3. This also will help fans forget about the Norman release. I think fans are still a little shocked by it. I think they're still regretting that. But having Malik Hooker in the secondary will help fans forget. Number 9, Cincinnati Bengals. This pick is based off of free agency. Free agency kind of forces Cincinnati's hand here. They lost 2 key offensive linemen, 2 starters, and they need to fill that gap. So with that being said, they're going to take a versatile offensive lineman. They took some offensive linemen in recent years, but this is a starting caliber plug-and-play player in offensive lineman Forrest Lamp. He projects as a guard, but he can also play offensive tackle. They could go for defense, but again, that's something they can look at in later rounds. I do think with a weak offensive line class, that Forrest Lamp would be the best selection here. It is a reach again, but most offensive linemen will be considered a reach here. And I do think once a couple start getting picked, they'll go on a run, and those reaches will turn into wise selections. Number 10, Buffalo Bills. Another one with free agency where it kind of almost forces their hand. The loss of Gilmore, it hurts. Although he did get overpaid in New England, he was a key part of their secondary. I do think they'll look to fill that role and pair someone up with Darby. I think they will pick cornerback Marshawn Lattimore out of Ohio. It is known as the defensive back university. He is a starting caliber plug-and-play type of player. He is suffering from nagging injuries, but I don't think that will affect him too greatly or affect his draft stock. I think players are still going to see that potential and still select him high. They could go quarterback. I think restructuring Tyrod Taylor's contract will make that pick go elsewhere here with the number 10 selection. And they can go offense in round 2. They could use a wide receiver here. In a top-heavy wide receiver class, I would not be surprised. Lattimore is a player that at 10 is a very safe pick and someone that they can plug and play. Number 11, New Orleans Saints. Another team that is needing some secondary help, regardless of a possible Butler trade. I know that rumor's been floating around. Nobody's quite sure if it's going to happen. Regardless, it never hurts to have too many secondary players. The league is turning into an air it out offense. I do think cornerback Quincy Wilson will be the selection here. In my mind, he is the top cornerback in this draft class. He's physical. He's a larger body matching up against top wide receivers. I do think that he will be a nice addition to a weak secondary in New Orleans. They could look to replace Brandon Cooks, but with the number 32 pick, that is still an option. Number 12, Cleveland Browns. Another one of those picks where Browns fans will be holding their breath. We all know what they want. The dog pound wants quarterback. And Cleveland is going to look to please those fans, those loyal fans, and they're going to take quarterback. At this point, I do believe it will be Deshaun Watson from Clemson. I think he makes the most sense in Cleveland. He's a winner. He's a playmaker. He does have his weaknesses. He is more of a scrambler, which in the past hasn't quite worked out for Cleveland. Look at Johnny Manziel. But Deshaun Watson has more of a head on his shoulders, and I think he will take really well to Jackson's coaching. There is no starter on the roster, although they are saying now that there is no starter on the roster. There is word that Brock Osweiler could compete for the starting role, but I do believe that Cleveland would prefer that not happen. If they do choose to start him, Watson could sit for a year and take a redshirt year and benefit from learning the offense. Maybe not necessarily learning under Osweiler, but taking that time to get to know the NFL. The game's a little different. I think it would be a good opportunity for Watson and the Browns. Also, even though this might be a reach, it is a typical Browns pick. They do have plenty of opportunities late in the draft to redeem themselves if this is a flop. They had the most picks of any team in the draft. So, number 13, we're at the Arizona Cardinals. This team just lost Calais Campbell, and last year's top pick, Robert Mdijski, has been a bit of a bust. Catch my thoughts there. Even if they do start Robert on the defensive line this year, it will take attention off of him having someone like defensive lineman Jonathan Allen. I do expect that to be the pick. Again, this is a slide for another defensive lineman, another highly talented defensive lineman, one of the hardest hitting prospects in the draft. I think he'll be a great fit in Arizona. I think it'll make the pain of having Campbell leave. Not sure he can be quite the player in his rookie season, but I think he has the potential to get to be an even better player than Campbell was. They could use someone to pair with Patrick Peterson, but again, like I'd said before, a deep cornerback class will help or will persuade them to wait later in the draft. A lot of people are thinking quarterback could go here, thinking about the future. Carson Palmer's aging. He's getting hurt. It would make sense. I don't think anybody would be surprised. But this team is more of a win-now team, and drafting for the future isn't quite an option. Number 14, Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be a reach. Again, I'll tell you that right away. But they drafted Carson Wentz last year. They traded up and sold the farm to get him last year at number 2. They do need to take some pressure off of him. He did get beat up towards the end of the season. He did have a nice season, but having someone in the backfield that'll take pressure off will greatly benefit this offense. This will be running back Dalvin Cook. I do believe that the Florida State product will be the downhill runner that Wentz and the Eagles need to help propel that offense. They do have shifty players, third down backs, such as Sproles and Matthews on the roster. Cook is a different type of player. He is going to be one between the tackles. You're going to give the ball to him, and he's just going to run downhill. Number 15, Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that also could use a running back. Andrew Luck hasn't had a franchise running back since he's been in Indianapolis. I do think that ends here. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back available, and I do think he'll help this offense. The two Stanford products working in the backfield together. McCaffrey being both a threat, rushing and receiving, will take this offense to new levels. There is a bit of a run on running backs. I do think that'll influence this pick. He will help in the receiving game as well as the rushing game. And they did address their other need, defensive line and free agency, signing Jonathan Hankins to a pretty sizable deal. So this should be a running back. Number 16, Baltimore Ravens. This is a team that is going to take an unusual selection in my mind. Free agency again forced their hand. It hurt to lose two starting Pro Bowl offensive linemen 2 years in a row back-to-back. Although they did pick Ronnie Stanley last year, I think they could use another complement to him. Offensive lineman Garrett Bowles should be the selection here. This is a weak offensive line class, like I had stated. I think that influences this pick. It'll strengthen their line for years to come. He is versatile. He can play guard and tackle, which I think also influences the selection. It is an uncharacteristic selection for Baltimore. Baltimore historically will generally go defense and best player available in the draft, but their offense has struggled. It has been one of their downfalls. This will help Flacco get some more time to air it out and hopefully get back to where they were when they won the Super Bowl. It is also a deep defensive class, so they can wait. They can get a defensive lineman. They can get secondary help, although they did address that in free agency. But again, it doesn't hurt to draft some younger players to develop. So look for that in rounds 2 and 3 and even after. Number 17, Washington. They do have some holes. There's a reason they've been making runs at playoffs. Compton, their linebacker, is a free agent. He's been a big part of that defense. Linebacker Hassan Reddick should be the selection. He is versatile. He can play all over the field. I do see him playing an outside linebacker position or a defensive end position by putting his hand in the dirt and rushing the passer. He is that type of player. He will be a difference maker. He's better than any defensive line prospects available. So although they could go address the trenches, I do think a linebacker will be the selection. Number 18, the Tennessee Titans. Like I said earlier, they would look to fill a hole in the offense. They'd look to add help for Marcus Mariota. And they were going to wait and see how the draft played out and look at secondary help or defensive help with their second selection. We made it. There is a nice pickup here at cornerback, and I do think it will be Marlon Humphrey out of Alabama. He's big, he's physical. He's that person you want to match up against another team's big physical receiver. I reference the Vikings a lot because that's the team I know the most. But think Xavier Rhodes. Bigger, physical, going to meet you right at the line. I see Humphrey as the same type of player. The Titans do need secondary help. Their secondary is a bit weak, although they could go with pass rusher here or defensive line to kind of balance out that secondary need. They do have Kevin Dodd on the roster. They do still hold out hope for him, and I believe he will make an impact in his sophomore season. Number 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This pick could go many places. I do believe it'll be tight end O.J. Howard. He makes too much sense to pass up on. Winston could use some help. He makes too many mental errors, throws a lot of interceptions. Having that safety blanket available will help. Howard also helps out in the blocking game. He can run block as well as break out for passes. So he helps the offense in multiple ways. He will be that person that Winston can rely on to be there for him. Although tight end is an immediate need, he is a long-term answer. Someone that they can rely on for years to come. And like I said, he's versatile. He can do a lot of things. He's, although he's not the fastest tight end, he is explosive. He's a playmaker. When he gets the ball in his hands, look for yards after the catch. He can be that type of person for the Buccaneers. Number 20, the Denver Broncos. we all know that they need a lineman. So I'm just going to say right away that this will be offensive tackle Cam Robinson in this mock. The defense is strong enough they can hold their own. There are some players here that could greatly benefit the Broncos. There's a player that's been sliding that I think the Broncos would love to take. But I do think that the offensive line needs to be addressed enough to where that will influence their selection. The offensive line class, said it once, said it many times, say it again, it's weak. They're going to go high as soon as there's a run. So the Broncos will see that, and they'll take Cam Robinson. He is a franchise type of tackle. He is someone they can have for years to come. He'll help whoever is at quarterback, whether that be Trevor Siemian or Paxton Lynch. Whoever's behind center will have some more protection this coming season. Number 21, the Detroit Lions. Like I had said earlier, there was a player who's been sliding. He's going to be selected right here. Linebacker Reuben Foster. Best linebacker in the draft. There might be some character concerns. There is. He recently just admitted to failing a drug test at the combine. He was kicked out of the combine. Nobody quite knows the answer there. This could affect teams, puts a bad taste in their mouth. But I think if he slides to the Lions, they can't pass up on him. They do need a difference maker on defense. He would be huge on that defense. They could look to go cornerback here, but again, in a strong class, they'll wait, especially with someone like Foster sliding to them. Foster does fit the smash mouth nature of the NFC North. He will fit right in. He will give the likes of Aaron Rodgers and Sam Bradford and whoever's playing quarterback for the Bears nightmares. He's all over the field. He's going to rush the passer. He's going to knock out some running backs, fill in gaps. He's going to be a matchup problem. So expect the Lions to pick him there if he's available. Number 22, the Miami Dolphins. They're looking to round out a defense that is already pretty strong. Their offense can hold their own, although they could use another player there. Let's say wide receiver, a tight end. They did just trade for Julius Thomas, but nobody quite knows if he's going to ever regain his Denver Broncos form. But with that being said, they'll wait. They're going to take a cornerback here, Tre'Davious White out of LSU. He is one of those players that can make a difference. He is a shutdown guy. He can pair well with Maxwell, maybe even help Maxwell perform better. If you look, Byron Maxwell's most productive time was in Seattle. It was because he wasn't the primary focus at the cornerback position. He had people like Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas to help out. He wasn't the main focus. So pairing Tre'Davious White with him should help him out, should help the defense out in general. I do believe that'll be the selection if he's available. Number 23, New York Giants. This one, it was hard to pick just based off of Hankins leaving. It could very well be defensive line here. But if you remember right, Hankins wasn't a first-round pick. He was second-rounder. He worked his way up. He became a player who just signed a huge contract in the offseason with another team. So they can wait for a later round to pick a defensive lineman. There are some, nice pieces that they can plug and play in later rounds. With that being said, they're going to take a tight end. Why? Because it'll help the offense become more explosive. They just got Brandon Marshall. They have Odell Beckham Jr. They have the pieces. This is going to help Eli Manning even more. David Njoku. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's going to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators who are playing the Giants. To have all these passing threats, it will help Manning cut down on mental errors, interceptions, and it'll be that tight end that that Eli Manning's been needing for some time now. So it'll also take pressure off of people like Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham Jr. They won't be the primary focus for a defense. Having Njoku up the middle will be a huge difference maker and be a bit of a safety blanket for the Giants. Like I said, defensive line could also be the selection here. Offensive line as well. They could use help on both sides of the trenches. With Njoku sliding here, expect that to be the selection. Number 24, Oakland Raiders. They do have a strong team on both sides of the ball. Running back is a need that sticks out. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Marshawn Lynch. They did set the draft as kind of the deadline to sign. We don't know yet. We're not at that point. Regardless, he is aging. They could still use a running back. But the running back class is pretty deep. They will wait. They don't need a workhorse right now. They've had running back by committee. I guess you could argue that Latavius Murray, who recently signed with the Vikings, was a bit of a workhorse, but they also had a rotation. They can get by with a rotation. They will go defensive line here, I believe, if Malik McDowell is available, and I believe that'll be the selection. He's versatile. He can play all over the defensive line. I watched tape, and he played nose tackle, he played defensive tackle, he even played defensive end. He played everything. This is the type of player that the Oakland Raiders could use on their defense. There is questions about his motor, his drive, but with the right coaching staff, and I do believe it is in Oakland with Jack Del Rio, I think they can get his motor going. I think he'll be a steal for them. Number 25, Houston Texans. This is another pick where I don't think they have a choice. We all like to think they do. They did surprise a couple years ago, waiting to take a quarterback until they took Tom Savage in mid-round. Everyone expects them to take quarterback here. They could prove everybody wrong, go elsewhere. But I believe that with O'Brien being so high on this quarterback, I do think he'll be the selection at number 25. And that would be Patrick Mahomes. He is an air raid quarterback. He will take some polishing up. There is a thought that air raid quarterbacks don't succeed in the NFL. But again, with the right coaching staff, I think it can work. I think that this is a nice pairing. There is no starters on the roster. As of right now, I don't think I could tell you who would start if the season started today. With Mahomes, they're getting a big arm. They're getting a player that can sling it all over the field. He does have a Brett Favre type of aspect to his game. He's a gunslinger, which could lead interceptions in his rookie year. But as time progresses, he will become a weapon behind center. Again, they could take a defensive back with their top cornerback leaving in free agency. It does hurt, but with the deep class, they can wait. Number 26, Seattle Seahawks. We've all heard the rumors about Richard Sherman. We're not quite sure where he's going to be, although there is speculation that he is going to stay, and I do believe he will stay. You never really know. So with that being said, they will strengthen an already strong part of their team and go with the cornerback here. I do believe they'll go with cornerback Gareon Conley out of Ohio State. It will strengthen the Legion of Boom. It will take some pressure off of Sherman, assuming he stays. Offensive lineman could go here, but again, it would be a reach, especially with some of the top talent already off the board. Wide receiver is a need. Russell Wilson could use some help. It's been a band of misfits at wide receiver for them for a while, but they've made it work. So with that said, we're going to go cornerback here and strengthen an already strong point of their team. Number 27, Kansas City Chiefs. This is a team that is strong. They've made the playoffs. They can't seem to get much further than that, and I do believe it's from the offense. They need help. Alex Smith has been forever labeled as a game manager, and that might be true, but he does need help at wide receiver. Jeremy Maclin is more of a number 2 than a number 1. They do have Tyreek Hill, who surprised everybody, came out and was just explosive. They could look to pair John Ross with him, but I do think they'll look for more of a traditional wide receiver with Hill already on the roster. With that said, I do believe it's wide receiver Corey Davis. Again, this is a player who has the potential to be a number 1 wideout. He will help Alex Smith. The offense is the weak link on this team. This should help improve it. Again, they could go Ross, but I think they will go more traditional wide receiver with Corey Davis. He has the potential to also be explosive, but in a different fashion. Number 28, Dallas Cowboys. This is a pick influenced by free agency. They got destroyed in free agency. Their secondary is depleted. They could use some help. Everyone's going to think Jabril Peppers here, and I would not be surprised if that was a selection. But in my mind, I do think that'll be safety Budda Baker. I think he's a safer selection. I think he's more of a traditional safety. I think he's going to be a steal in this draft. You watch his highlights, you watch him, playing center field for Washington. I think he is less of a liability in pass coverage than Peppers is. So he is rangy. Like I said, he is a ball hawk. I think he will be a great aspect to this Dallas Cowboys team. At number 29, Green Bay Packers. We're going to go with cornerback Sidney Jones. He's hurt. He got hurt at Pro Day, but he could be a huge steal on a terrible secondary in Green Bay. And that's all you're getting for Green Bay. We're on to the number 30. Pittsburgh Steelers. Like we talked about, this player, we're not sure how he's going to perform. Nobody knows if he has a position. It's safety Jabril Peppers. I do think in Pittsburgh, it will be a nice fit for him. He does have some, players on defense and some coaches that will set him up for success. I think it's a perfect situation for him. Although the secondary could use more of a traditional player, I do think it's worth the risk here for Pittsburgh. He is a high risk, high reward player, but he will be a nice fit on the Steelers defense. At number 31, Atlanta Falcons. They don't have a lot of holes. They are set to compete, for a Super Bowl for years to come. They're set up well. I do think success is in their future, but they could use some help on the offensive line. Offensive line is only their only real need, and that's the guard position. So expect offensive guard Dan Feeney to be the selection here. He is the best lineman available. Okay, so offensive guard Dan Feeney. He is the best player available. He will help this offense. He will help Matt Ryan. Spent a lot of time on his back during the Super Bowl. One could argue that it was their downfall and, part of the reason why, they threw away a game. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think it should ease some Atlanta fans to have a stronger offensive line. Defense could be addressed. Again, they don't have a lot of holes, but it is a deep defensive draft, so look for them to do that later in the draft and add more explosive players to that already stout defense. All right, last pick of the first round. We're at number 32, the New Orleans Saints. I do like the trade, especially because I don't have to mock for New England. So that's always a plus, but doesn't make it much better that it's the Saints. So with that being said, there's a slide here. They could use some help here. It's going to be wide receiver John Ross if he's available. This helps fill a hole left by Brandon Cooks. It's perfect for the slot. I do see John Ross as more of a slot receiver. Some see him as a type of outside receiver, similar to that of John Brown for the Cardinals. And that could very well be his position too. But I do think in New Orleans he will play in the slot. He is a new weapon to help Drew Brees. It'll help spark that offense. And like I said, he slid. I think he'll go here. It makes sense. It somehow worked out for New Orleans. And it makes too much sense to pass up. So we've reached the end of the first round. With that being said, I'd like to give some thank yous here. Don't know how to word all this. A big thank you to my friend Ty. He's the person editing this video. This is definitely not my video editing work. I couldn't have done it without him. He made this video possible, so thank you. A thank you to Scott at Just Bombs Productions for letting me use his highlights in my mock. I do think it added, it took it to the next level, and he does nice work. Someone who I'm always watching his videos when it comes draft time. So thank you, Scott. Also, big thank you to my fiance. This is the time of year where she doesn't get a lot of attention from me. Between work and then coming home and spending time researching, reading, writing, it's hard to find time to spend time together, even though we live together. And so thank you. I do appreciate it. You support me with my crazy dreams of writing these mock drafts, and so it means a lot, and I thank you for that. Another thank you to my friend Chris, someone who was always bouncing ideas off me. We're always texting back and forth this time of year. He always makes a trip up. It's about a 4-hour trip for him or so, maybe less, depending how fast you drive. He always makes a trip up to watch the draft. Every year, we're always grilling steaks, watching the draft together. It's a great tradition, and again, like I said, he's kind of my draft buddy, and it's good to have that conversation. So thank you for being a loyal reader and now watcher. Also, thank you to the people who do read, watch. I appreciate it. Every single read, every single watch. It means a lot to me. Although with my blogs, I might only get 10 people who even look at it, but it's something that I will continue to do because it's a hobby. It's something I love. But you mean a lot to me. To just take your time, especially with this video that got a little longer than I expected it to be. To sit and watch. It's great. Thank you. Also, suggestions. I have had some suggestions. I do very much appreciate those. I asked for them. A lot of people, I don't have a lot of people that read or watch, so I haven't had a lot of suggestions. it is something that I do take to heart. If you would like to suggest something, put it in the comments. I'm gonna read. So it's good to hear these things. Some of the suggestions I got this year were to do this video blog. My fiance had this idea. At first I thought, no way. And to know I had a friend that could help me with this, I decided to give it a try. So here we are. We're doing a vlog, I guess you could call it. Another suggestion, well, before I get to that one, another suggestion was thank you to Sam, Ty's wife, for telling me I should have a beer while I do this. Help calm the nerves a little bit, and it's a little weird recording myself. You might have had the best suggestion yet. Lastly, I had a suggestion from a good friend and fellow Vikings diehard fan, Zach. He suggested to do a second round, and you know what? We're going to do it. So if you're still with me, if you're still watching, here we go. We have round 2. So it's going to be a rapid fire round 2. I'm going to go quickly through them. There won't be videos. There won't be analysis. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's see who the Vikings pick. So, at pick number 33, the Cleveland Browns select cornerback Adoree Jackson. Pick 34, San Francisco 49ers select edge player TJ Watt. With the 35th selection, Jacksonville Jaguars select offensive tackle Antonio Garcia. With the 36th selection, the Chicago Bears select quarterback DeShone Kizer. With the 37th pick, the LA Rams select defensive end Derek Barnett. At number 38, the LA Chargers select safety Justin Evans. With the 39 selection, the New York Jets select wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. Number 40 selection, Carolina Panthers select running back Joe Mixon. At number 41, Cincinnati Bengals select defensive end Taco Charlton. With the 42nd selection, the New Orleans Saints select edge Takk McKinley. With the 43rd selection, the Philadelphia Eagles select cornerback Desmond King. With the 44th pick, the Buffalo Bills select wide receiver Darius Stewart. With the 45th selection, the Arizona Cardinals select quarterback Davis Webb. With the 46th pick, the Indianapolis Colts select linebacker Jared Davis. With the 47th selection, the Baltimore Ravens select defensive end Charles Harris. At number 48, my Minnesota Vikings select running back Alvin Kamara. At number 49, Washington selects defensive tackle Caleb Brantley. At number 50, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select linebacker Zach Cunningham. With the 51st selection, the Denver Broncos select tight end Evan Engram. At number 52, the Cleveland Browns select Obi Melifonwu. At number 53, the Detroit Lions select cornerback Teez Tabor. With the 54th selection, the Miami Dolphins select edge Tim Williams. With the 55th selection, the New York Giants select edge Ryan Anderson. At the number 56 pick, the Oakland Raiders select Cordray Tankersley. At number 57, the Houston Texans select cornerback Jordan Lewis. With the 58th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Taylor Moton. At number 59, the Kansas City Chiefs select quarterback Nathan Peterman. With the 60th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select cornerback Kevin King. At number 61, the Green Bay Packers select running back Deontay Foreman. At number 62, the Pittsburgh Steelers select tight end Bucky Hodges. At number 63, the Atlanta Falcons select tight end Jake Butt. And at number 64, the Carolina Panthers select offensive guard Dorian Johnson. So with the second round done, I will say my goodbyes. This is something that I enjoy doing every year. Still not sure why I do it. It's exciting. Nothing impacts a team's roster like the draft. 7 rounds. It can swing a roster significantly, whether that's immediately or years to come. So it's always exciting. It's great to think who, teams will pick, especially me being a Vikings fan, it's always exciting to think, who's going to be on the Vikings roster next year. So for me to take my time, do some research, it's something I enjoy. It's a hobby. It's something I'll continue to do. Again, these are my opinions. I'll tell you right now that my selections of last year, I always look back at them. I was 3 for 32 last year. So, not sure I should tell you that because that is terrible. Although my mindset was correct, my selections were obviously off. So, am I expecting to be right here? No, I'm not. But I'm expecting them to be close. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed listening, watching, thinking about who your team might select. Again, it was only my opinions. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It's all for fun. And if you're still watching, you're in it for the same reasons. You're here for the fun of it, or you're here to just support me and sit through this however many minutes of draft selections. So thank you. One last thing before I go. My Twitter page, @DraftMocking, and my Tumblr page, Mocking the Draft, is where you'll find my drafts. You can look through previous ones. You can see some of my previous work. Again, like I said, are they always right? Absolutely not. But if it's something you want to take a look at, again, you can find me at DraftMocking on Twitter. So, another thing you can find at my Twitter page is round 3. So I took it a step further. I wanted to see, I knew the Vikings had 2 selections in the 3rd round. I wanted to see how those might play out. So if you want to see round 3, head to my Twitter page or my Tumblr at Mocking the Draft. So again, I thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. And in advance, I appreciate every watch, every share. It means a lot to me. So with that, let's enjoy our draft week. It's coming up fast. Thursday will come faster than we think. But take the time to enjoy it. I'm going to be watching draft day here. Some Sonny Weaver Jr. That always gets me hyped up for it. So, like I said, enjoy your draft week. For how much you might think it drags, take the time to do some research, have some fun, get excited. So, again, thank you, and Skol Vikings.